This is Live from the Table, the official podcast of the world-famous Comedy Cellar, coming at you on Sirius XM 99 Raw Dog and available wherever podcasts are found. Dan Naturman with Noam Dworman, owner of the world-famous, ever-expanding Comedy Cellar. Still going upward, Noam. I know nothing lasts forever, and I know you're concerned that what goes up must come down, but we're still going up.
Hopefully, Dan. Hopefully. Why are we still going up?
Well, because you're opening a new room, and there's certainly no sign of any decrease in the number of people coming here at the very least.
No. Things are good, Dan. Things are good.
Well, it's good to hear it. We'll try to keep that going as long as possible. Periel Aschenbrand is also with us, and she is our producer. And there's been some controversy over whether that term is most accurate, but we'll leave that for another discussion.
Let's just face it, she doesn't want production duties. She just wants to be on the radio or whatever you call it.
Well, everybody wants the glory of the on-air, role, but somebody's got to do the grind.
Let me give you an example.
Work.
I asked Periel ages ago, listen, I can't keep track of these guests. Can you please send me whatever link I sent you the day of the interview so I can review? Because sometimes I'll read an article like 3 months ago. I said, this would be an interesting guest. And then let's just say, like, Jeff Goldberg's coming on today. I'm like, who the fuck is Jeff Goldberg?
Oh, you are getting into such dangerous territory right now.
Well, he doesn't seem scared to me.
No, he doesn't, but wait.
And then she'll say to me, do you want me to send you that article? I'll say, yes, I've asked you to send me every week. What is it? What?
You know what I started doing when you asked me to do that?
What?
I started posting all of those links in the calendar.
Is that what I asked you to do?
Listen, you don't even write back
No,
the emails.
if it's in the calendar,
so
if it's in the calendar, that's good. Was this in the calendar?
Yes, they're all in the calendar. When was the last time you ever checked the calendar? Answer that.
Answer
Could I have a
honestly.
Werther's original?
No, I check it from time to time.
No, I'm going to have a Werther's original. No, brought Werther's originals with him.
Wait, because the audacity is just unbelievable. Because I could send you the link, and I would never even know if you got it because you don't even answer the emails.
Pretty tasty, a Werther's original.
Oh, they're great. Oh, she's sure enough. You know what?
Yeah.
I retract.
Okay,
she put it in the calendar.
Check all of the guests. Go back to the day that I got the email. Hey, Periel. I really...
You know what? She's right. Mm-hmm. This is happening with some frequency lately. You notice that?
That she's right? Yeah, it does happen.
All right, so go ahead.
Okay, so by the way,
just like to bask in my moment of glory here for a minute.
This Friday, I don't have any sets at the Comedy Cellar. I told Esty I was available, and I don't have any sets. I'm not asking you to talk to Esty on my behalf, nor am I really complaining. I just think it's just something worth noting that I feel like I've never been funnier and never been more prolific. And yet,
well, it's funny she said. Go ahead.
So there's two possibilities. One is that I'm not more funny and more prolific than ever.
We'll call that the delusional scenario. Go ahead.
That certainly can happen. Second scenario is I am every bit as funny and prolific as I think I am, but nobody gives a shit because everybody's killing anyway, and you can kill with crap just as easily as you can kill with good stuff. We've had this discussion. Noam disagrees. But that's my position. Noam doesn't agree with that. Noam feels that the audience knows best.
Now, my wife called me just now. Go ahead. She's
As a third possibility is that I just don't complain, and so of all the people that, because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of new comics that need to be put on the schedule, and so since I don't complain, I'm the easiest one not to use. And again, by the way, I'm not. I mean, you probably think I'm complaining. I'm just bringing this up as an interesting discussion point. Is Dan Naturman not getting favorably reviewed by whoever you go to for feedback? You ask the wait staff, I suppose. Every now and again, you do a spot check yourself.
Well, all I could say is this, Dan. Mm-hmm. Esty and I had our weekly meeting, and she said to me, a lot of people are going to be very upset about the lineup this week because there was a lot of people I couldn't give as many spots as I usually do because there were certain people that are seldom in town that she had to give spots to, certain famous people she had to give spots to, and such. And she knew. And I got mad at her.
Yeah. This is an interesting discussion.
I said, well,
that I brought
what do you suggest? Because I felt like she was pressuring me to give spots to your name didn't come up, to other people. And I'm like, Esty, we have to please our customers. We have to give, like, every show has to be as good as it can be. I don't know what to do. I mean, you know, you have to explain to people, like, that's the way it is sometimes, because, you know, we have to do what we have to. I wish I could be more frank about, like, all the details, but and then I had, like, a private moment with myself. I'm, like, wondering, well, what is the right thing to do in these situations? But I said, now this is going to be offensive to you in some way, but I said, well,
that won't be the first time.
I said, like, no chef would, you know, serve, not inferior, that was the word that came to mind, but it's not the word I meant to say, would serve anything but the absolute best. No chef would serve anything but what he expected to achieve the maximum enjoyment from the eater, from the diner.
Okay.
Because of some diplomatic concern. Now, maybe he would.
The Naturman burger is off the menu for
But
this
then you
Friday.
try to explain that to the customer who say, you know what, I didn't really like it that as much. And I guess what I'm saying is that the business, as customers, we all expect that we're getting for our money the very best product that the purveyor could have given us. And if we find out that they didn't, we're like, what the fuck? Did he charge me less? Like, you could have given me that and you didn't because you know, you're dating someone?
I don't know if most people think about it in that level of detail, but, you know, certainly you want to give the best show you can.
So and once you start making those compromises, it's very tough. So, and then I'm always spooked by all the clubs that were on top of the world. The Improv, Catch a Rising Star, Caroline's, you know, you can go down the list, who didn't stay on top of the hill. They just didn't. They had everything. You know, once you're on top of the hill, it's not easy to come down. It's just not easy to take down.
But in your hierarchy of
but the way they, as I said, but the way they certainly came down was through some process of overconfidence that led them to believe that they could take their eye off the ball. And the only way that I believe in the idea of corporate culture, and the only way that I feel like I can keep the train on the rails is by just insisting every week to us, listen, I know I'm happy I don't have to make those calls, ST. That's, you know, that's your lot in life, but we have to do it. Just got to do it.
Might I ask you, when you want to give the best show possible now, the best show doesn't necessarily mean who kills the hardest, because the person that kills the hardest might be doing so with jokes that everybody's already heard and you have repeat customers. So you want to be mindful of that. Also, famous people, there are famous people or people that are relatively famous that might not kill as hard as a non-famous
like
person.
Who?
But the audience gets, I'm not going to name names, but, you know.
Then I reject your premise.
But suppose a famous person doesn't kill as hard as a non-famous person. Does the audience enjoy seeing a famous person?
Yes, they do.
To what extent does that trump the killing?
It trumps.
Okay.
Well, it depends how bad. I mean, to see a famous person just be awful or drunk or whatever it is.
Well, oftentimes they're doing new material, for example, so they might not kill as hard. Sometimes, look, I don't want to name names, and I don't want to even, you know, give a hint.
Just give initials.
No. But there are people that are well known from television shows, and that stand-up might not be their main thing. Their main thing might be something else, acting.
Yeah, well, we don't have people like that. That would not trump. I'm talking about famous stand-up comedians. Listen, it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to do.
And what about, as I mentioned, the first thing I said was, to what extent do you give weight to somebody that's new? Because if you have repeat business, that matters.
Well, actually, it was the newbies, as it were, that SD was most concerned about because she was worried about them getting discouraged. And that is a legitimate concern. But I reminded her that there was a time when we only had 2 shows during the week and 3 or 4 shows on the weekend. So, it's 8, 10, 28 shows a week. And now we have, something like 50 shows a week, right? So, I'm sorry, 18 shows a week as opposed to, what the hell's the matter with me? 18 shows a week as opposed to close to 50 shows a week. And we managed it with 18. And certainly people weren't getting that many spots when we had 18 shows a week. So, I think we'll survive that.
So do you think that sometimes people who have been around longer are sort of expected to maybe understand? Is that...
Look, I understand I didn't make it. What are you going to do? You gave me 30 years to make it. I didn't do it. I mean, I get it. But I'm just bringing it up, and I think we provoked an interesting discussion and a very on-brand discussion.
I've been dealing with this my whole life. When I had the band in the cafe, there'd be a singer, be supposed to do a guest spot, and then somebody else was doing better, and I just couldn't. I didn't find the time to bring them up, and I was trying to develop them, but I just, the show has to come first. I know that's a grading. There's no proper way to put this where you can't take it the wrong way, because the language just doesn't, like the Eskimos have 10 words for snow or whatever it is. I don't know if that's true, but like we don't have these fine gradations for the things I'm trying to discuss. But this is no knock on you. I'm just saying when, like, let's say who's huge now, like Shane Gillis, right? When Shane Gillis is in the hall and wants to go on.
Sure, I get it. I
got to put him on.
I completely get it, by the way.
Yeah.
And I'm confident enough in my own, maybe it's delusion, I don't know, whatever it is. I'm confident enough in my
nobody more confident in himself than a delusional person.
Look,
You're not delusional, Dan. You're very funny.
I'm confident that I'm very funny. When I don't get spots, I don't think, oh, I'm not funny. I think that whatever. So I'm cool with it. I just think I thought we provoked an interesting discussion, and it's a worth discussing. Can we introduce our guest?
You can, yes.
Okay, well, we have with us Kruger Dunn. It's not his real name, obviously, because it's
could be.
There's a no, because he obviously the Dunn Kruger effect. It's called, or the
Dunning,
correct.
Whatever. Yeah, so that's obviously.
That's how I know I'm going to get along with someone though, when they know what that is.
Well, I googled it, but whatever. At least
I know what it is.
I didn't know it prior.
But
to
before we introduce Mr. Dunning.
Dunn. Kruger Dunn.
Oh, Mr. Dunn.
I don't know if you want to give your real name or you want to stay Kruger Dunn.
No, I'd like to keep my day job.
All right, Kruger Dunn. Kruger Dunn.
So that's interesting. We're gonna get to that. Hold that thought. That's what I tell you on the subject of coincidences. I'm a big fan of coincidences.
Synchronicity.
Like the guy Sicknick, who's died the day after he was a cop at the January 6th riot. Everybody was sure he got murdered, but it turned out he just died. And there's all these coincidences. Today, I was doing an interview. A television pitch for a show, and I was talking about how how did it go? Oh, my wife. How did it go? How exactly did it happen? Oh, and I said that. We came on the call early before the executives came on. And they were commenting, you're always on time. You're always early. I said, yeah, I always come on early to the Zoom calls because you never know when Windows is going to auto-update. You never know when Zoom is going to auto-update. You never know when your computer is you never know when I like to be there 5 minutes early to make sure that everything's okay. So I'm here. Everything's fine. Go. The important executives get on. The people representing me do like a 10-minute spiel. And saying, now, I want to introduce you, the owner of the Comedy Store, Noam Dworman. All the power went out in my house. Right at that moment, all the power went out in my house. I'm disconnected from the Zoom. I frantically try to get my phone to connect on the Zoom, but of course, I was smart enough. I realized, oh no, the Wi-Fi is out, so I have to disconnect the Wi-Fi. It takes a while. So I use cellular, but it's weak connection. And then the
power went up.
Then the computer finally reboots. Windows updates. Windows gets 30% of its update, reboots again. Then I swear to God, I have that. Get it there, and then open up Zoom. Blah, 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 blah. Zoom updates.
Guaranteed.
Then I got Zoom open, and the camera freezes because the Zoom update is not compatible with the fucking whatever it is. This went on for like 15 minutes of one technical problem after another, after another. So these coincidences, so his fucking name could be Kruger Dunn or whatever it is. It could be. So go ahead.
Well, look, the coincidences are inevitable.
This is amazing.
Billions of things happen throughout your life. Coincidences are going to be inevitable. Kruger Dunn is the producer of Humor for the Hungry, a comedy show where all proceeds go to feed people experiencing homelessness in L.A. And his comedy album, In the Moment with Kruger Dunn, is available on fulldork.com. And soon on Spotify. Okay, Kruger Dunn is with us. If there's anything we left out you want to say, go ahead. If
well,
not,
he came to our attention because he wrote an article about us.
I understand. So summarize the article.
You can summarize your article. Go ahead.
Just basically that. This is my favorite podcast.
Really?
I listen every week. Yeah, and it's also the first alt-right podcast I've ever been on. So my heart is racing. I don't know if I'm ever going to work again.
Alt-right?
Yeah, I mean, you treat everybody fairly.
And okay. Thank you.
I don't see how we're supposed to know who's better if we're not told. The reason I became a fan.
The shit out of me.
Wait, talk closer to the mic.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I first started listening because I'm a big fan of Mr. Naturman.
Well,
I know you say Mr. Should I say Mr. Dworman?
You can call me
No, Dan is fine.
Dan, huge fan of Dan, so I started listening to podcasts because of that. And then I heard you say on one episode, when someone gave you a fact, you said, "Oh, I guess I was wrong." I've never heard anyone say that they're wrong before. I was like, "Oh, he's listening." Considering facts, and so that's why I listen every week.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
you must have caught the one episode where Noam said that.
No, Noam will
it's a couple times here and there.
So the headline of his article was "Comedy Cellar Owner Bullies Podcast Community with Radical Fairness" by Kruger Dunn. Takes candy out of my mouth. The Comedy Cellar Comics Table is a mecca for many aspiring stand-up comedians. The elite, chosen regular performers at the legendary club gather there and engage in witty repartee, ranging from political debate to identity-appropriate racial slurs. Nothing could. I can't even read. I make it big.
Could taint this Colin Quinian.
Nothing could taint this Colin Quinian version of utopia. Nothing except the owner, Mr. Noam Dworman. This cisgendered straight man is hell-bent on ruining the table's sanctity through insidious ploys using radical fairness that trap us into agreeing to his harmful ideals of being fair to everyone. A typical Live from the Table podcast episode begins discussing road taxes in New York. Oh, we should talk about that. But before you know it, Mr. Dworman has convinced you that all humans are equal in capability, except for in extreme cases in which help should be given socially, and that no specific immutable characteristic of a person should be used to invalidate nor add extra credence to their claims. And it goes on from there. So
I do want to say that the table, the notion that the table downstairs is a hotbed of lively debate is, I think, somewhat exaggerated. Noam does most of his debating at other tables.
Well, it has changed. So first of all, we used to do our podcast downstairs. We came up here, was it for COVID?
Just because of COVID. And because during COVID, we started doing video, and then we did not want to relinquish the video.
That makes sense.
Why are you
listens
looking
without
at me?
video
Relinquishes, but anyway.
We could do video probably downstairs.
I'm not sure relinquish is the right word.
Well, why don't
it's good
you
enough.
Why don't
we
you
don't
go
need
ahead and look that up?
She asked why I looked like that.
I don't know that we need to get bogged down in vocabulary. We all know it.
So I think we should go back down, and I think we should get the cameras down there.
All right, let's go. I'll grab this camera.
Not right.
All right.
Not at this exact moment, of course, but I'm fine with that. I mean, what was good about when we did downstairs is sometimes people that were in the room would stop in. I mean, Chris Rock briefly, I think, sat down for a second or two. We had Amy Schumer, I think Sarah Silverman. In those days, if you were hanging around, because we were down there anyway, they might stop by. So you could hope to get perhaps bigger names that way. The downside is Keith Robinson was giving us the stink eye every time we did it because he just didn't like the fact that we were occupying space.
But I like when he would interrupt and yell at all of you. That was some of the best episodes.
That was best. I think we should let's
Yeah.
he's right.
We should.
Let's bring it back downstairs. And
It's also a vibe.
And then the table. I mean, when I'm at the table, we still yell and scream at each other. But
when you're not there, I mean, to be honest, I'm usually not there either. But I don't think the conversations are typically, heated debate.
we had an awesome one
just people
a couple nights ago with Michael Che and John Hamm from
Mad
Mad
Men.
Men, and I was there, and a couple of
At the table or at another table?
It was some people were at the table. It was two tables yelling at each other. But
Okay.
it still happens.
Yeah.
But you're right. So go on. So why won't you give? So you have a day job somewhere?
I do have a day job, yes,
And
at
you're
a very large company.
But
I only recently started, like 2 months ago.
And what do you do there?
I manage websites. It's super boring. We don't want.
You're a programmer.
I was a developer. Now I'm a manager.
What does a manager of websites do?
Decide what goes on the website, talks to retail. I don't want to say specifically; it's a giveaway what industry it is, but talk with the distributors.
Well, at least we know it's not
Well,
retail.
apropos of websites,
We can take
Noam,
that.
when's the new Comedy Cellar website going live?
But maybe you want to manage.
Ooh,
it.
new comedies. Yeah, 100.
So-
you kidding me?
Now you would
I'll
think
move in. I'll live here. You need a 24-hour manager? Let's do it.
you would think that your political points of view wouldn't have anything to do with your ability to manage a website.
You would think that, but I'm scared of not even getting on open mics if I said a true fact, let alone big companies. They
Now-
could lose a lot of money if I said the wrong thing.
Well, how outrageous are your heartfelt beliefs?
I don't think there are. You read a lot of them in that article. I don't think they're outrageous at all.
So, are you like you want to build a wall?
No,
You don't want to build a wall.
no, I'm not Republican.
But if you
Not a
if you
Democrat.
felt the wall would be an effective means of stemming the tide of immigration, you would consider it.
No.
Illegal immigration.
No.
Illegal.
I still would not consider it. It makes no sense.
But if a wall if you could be convinced that a wall would make it easier to regulate the border and allow
Which border?
The southern border of the United States, and to
No,
allow
that would-
for a fairer
Okay, the northern border.
immigration process.
If it's for Canada, like South Park pitch, let's do. No, it's a wall's never gonna do it. There's ocean.
Well, but I'm giving you a
There's air
I'm giving you a hypothetical that a
Dan,
wall.
Dan is a
There's nothing
fan.
intrinsically bad about a wall. If it doesn't work, then it's bad.
Right.
But if it can work, and maybe it can't work perfectly, but maybe it can work a little bit. Maybe it.
If it works for all borders, then sure. I still wouldn't want it if it was. Why are you choosing one border?
Well, that's the border where we
making
get the
me
most
Hi,
illegal
Carmen.
immigration. I think.
Hi, Carmen.
I don't know how much
so
is coming across.
Well, so that's
Canada.
fine. So you're almost seem defiantly almost to the left of center on this. So
Yeah. I
what
don't even
issue? What
believe
issue?
in left or right?
Yeah, what issue
It
is
should
your
be
most
logically for
controversial
each
issue?
What issue? If you were to be on a retreat with the people you work with, and you were talking in your sleep,
What would
what
get
issue
you in the most trouble and ruin your life and career? Please say it now onto this very.
What
podcast.
honest utterance might come out of your
I'll
mouth
go-
in your sleep that
I'll
would get
go
you in the
low
most trouble?
stakes as an example. In LA right now, I live in LA. There's a lot of open mics that do 50% female performer, 50% female and non-binary, 50% male. They go in separate buckets for the draw.
Wait, 50% female
And non-binary go in one bucket.
so you could be female or non-binary.
Correct.
Or,
And you're in
I
that
thought you meant
bucket.
and, but you're a programmer. He knows and
It's
or.
or.
Yeah. Female and
Yes.
female or 50% female or non-binary.
Right. And you go into this one bucket. If you're
And or actually.
and or yes.
Yeah.
NAND.
Yeah, okay.
Or if you're a male, then you go in another bucket. Then they draw 50% equally. But there's about 300 names in the male bucket and like 15 in the other bucket.
So explain to Periel what that means.
Shut up. I don't understand why.
I shouldn't have even laughed. I won't get booked anywhere in LA just for laughing.
Very quickly, I want to loop.
Wait, let him finish.
I'm
This
just
is
looping
interesting.
in Carmen Lynch very
Hi,
very
important.
briefly.
That is
But
important.
not
We've
in the
been
middle
jo-
of his thought.
No, this is just a very brief.
Yeah.
Looping in of Miss Carmen Lynch, who has joined us. Carmen, this is Kruger Dunn. He wrote
out.
an article on the Cellar
Hi.
praising Noam's even-handedness, fairness, and yeah. So,
Okay.
and he won't tell us his real name because he's got a job and he's got some controversial
I
views.
also changed it.
Okay,
'cause
that was
I
it.
got
Okay,
sick
but
of
hold on.
That was it.
anti-Semitic
That was
heckles on
looping
the
her in,
road.
and now we can go. Go
I know.
ahead.
I want to you finish, but I also know that you're obviously a very bright person. Have you considered the video of this podcast?
Meaning I look bad?
No, meaning that
Because
It
I
doesn't
know I
really-
look bad. I don't.
that somebody might recognize you
Oh no, I don't think anyone I work for likes comedy. I think they're afraid of it probably.
Okay, all right. Because we can blur you maybe.
Oh, can you do one of those voices too, like on 60 Minutes?
No, we're not doing.
Well, we
well, it's just-
can.
yeah.
We could. But
Yeah,
no,
but that would just ruin the experience.
But we can get Danny to blur him.
I think it'll be all right.
I
don't
mean,
say
unless he's
anything
like
crazy.
sex trafficking children, I don't think we need to blur his face out.
Well, then he doesn't want to give his name. Anyway, okay, so.
Well, in general, I also when I tour.
So you
I mean,
believe-
I'm ready
Kruger
to
Dunn.
take his, get the video, take a screenshot of it,
Okay.
do a Google image search, find out.
I'll tell you my name off air if you.
No, I
want.
kind of want to track it. Yeah, you can.
Oh, yeah.
So
I don't- it's
okay.
not a secret. I just.
So go ahead. So obviously, so if you're a male, you have a 1 out of 300 chance of getting on, and if you're female
Right.
or non-binary,
But these are at major clubs in LA, you said, or at open mics or something?
Open mics. Some of the
Or
major
mics, as
clubs
they
do
call
it,
them
but
now.
they don't announce that they're doing it. If you know the host, though, you know that they're putting names in different places.
Now,
That's
what is
still-
their rationale? For, go ahead, Carmen.
That's just still interesting.
Turn
though,
Carmen up. Yeah.
That men still get 50% and women and non-binaries have to, so they get a quarter. They get 25%.
No, or
Well, basically, everyone in that bucket goes up,
Okay.
and then
Oh, okay,
whatever,
gotcha,
because there'll be
gotcha.
say 30 spots.
Okay.
So they.
All right.
yeah.
All right.
But
So
what
they
if,
get- yeah.
what if
take it easy, Carmen. Right?
I was like,
She's
what?
Latina, so she has a bad temper.
No, but it was. I wish I had a temper. I thought maybe it'd be more fair if it was like thirds, but never mind.
How
I
about
get-
it be
I get what
fair
you're saying.
if it's just like everybody who comes,
Humans, yes,
everybody who
I know.
comes there just gets picked out of a hat? Is that really
It's an
unfair?
Open mic. Like we don't even want to be there. Really, we just have to be there.
It's not so much that like it just the fact that we even have to do that, but then when you have men have 50%, like it just didn't sound like they were all being treated equally. But I understand it.
What is your sense of how the big clubs in LA book their shows with regard to diversity and having a diverse lineup?
Ooh.
As a fan of, I assume you go to the clubs. a
I
lot?
would say it's super fair because it's almost entirely how many seats you can fill and how many followers you have. I don't remember the last time I saw someone that wasn't like you looked them up and they didn't have at least like 100,000 Instagram.
So well, that's interesting because Noam, book that way a little bit because we mentioned Shane Gillis. He's a big name now, so you will use him not just because he's funny, but because he's a big name. But generally speaking, you don't necessarily look to the
No, I don't pay-
social media following.
I don't pay any attention to that at all.
But that is related to fame, and you do look at fame.
I'm thinking about that. I don't know that it is. There's a lot of people with big social media followings that are not famous. They just have these niche things. And
and that are also not funny. There are
yeah,
people.
but when I say Shane is huge right now, it's not just that he's becoming more and more famous. He's also on fire, which is not the same thing. Like he's just destroyed.
Got heat.
He
He's
is,
destroyed.
and he's funny.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what Noam.
His level of fame, if he was not funny, like he doesn't have, in my opinion, he's not like Chris Rock famous so that just seeing him is like, oh my God, I saw Chris Rock. He's just becoming more and more well known. But if he wasn't funny, that would not tip the
scale.
it would not warrant putting him on.
I feel like people say the key is fame will get them to come watch you once.
Yeah.
And then if you bomb, they're not going to come back. Shane kills.
Like good looks,
Then
yeah.
they.
Well, to give an
Like good
example,
looks.
Yeah.
Al Franken used to
No,
come.
that'll always
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
People never get tired of that.
To give an example, Al Franken used to work here. You probably don't want to go down this road, but
I don't care.
Al Franken, very famous. He was a
offended me.
senator.
Yeah.
So I think the audience got a kick out of seeing him.
Yeah.
But and you felt you certainly weren't going to say no to him. But do you think that the audience that he was killing hard enough to make the fame, like, you know what I'm getting at?
No, we had a difficult we had difficult interaction with Senator Franken.
Why?
He also went long too. That's like,
Like-
it's one thing.
Take
to
it easy,
kill.
Carmen.
I'm having coffee, but like, when someone's not killing it all the time and their set is long, it's.
But were you happy to have him, despite maybe that he wasn't killing as hard as maybe
When he first came, the first night, first of all, I was thrilled. Like, Senator Franken, holy shit, this is awesome. So, of course, we're going to put him on. And he hadn't been on in 75 years or something. So he hadn't been on in a long, long time.
I don't think he's a stand-up by.
But I don't think he'd been even performed.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of nervous energy. I don't know if anybody saw him that first night he went on. He had a lot of, you could tell he was excited. There was adrenaline flowing. And he was really funny. And he did around 10, 15 minutes. And he was quick and he just had that energy. Then I came like 2 weeks later and saw him. And he had gotten used to the stage. So he didn't have quite that edge. And he was doing like a half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And then, now he was still funny. He was still funny.
Half
He's
an
got funny
hour.
bones.
That's when I started seeing him. I was like, half an hour.
Yeah. And then, but the audience was, the law of diminishing returns had kicked in at about 12 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were politely sitting through the rest of it with I don't want to overstate it, with periods of laughter. It's not like he's a funny guy and he's a smart guy, but it was just long and slow, plodding a little bit. And then
Long and slow. It's It's brutal.
That's the worst words.
Slow
How was
might be
it?
the worst thing you can say
it's
about
like
a
I
stand-up.
used to introduce a song, and when I had a band, I'd say, we're gonna do a very slow song now, but we'll try to do it quickly. Anyway, so he's very plotting. I wish he would do it quickly. So, and then there was a thing with the MCs. Now this is hearsay. I don't know that it's true, but the MC said to him, "Listen, I just want to, like, politely, because we didn't know how to get him. I just want to remind you, I'm gonna give you the light at 15 minutes." And he says, "Hearsay. You can give me the light, and I'll get off when I want."
Oh.
So
That's
now
a
that may
power
not be true.
statement.
That may not be
It's
true.
good gossip, however.
It is, and I
nonetheless.
heard more gossip.
Oh, go ahead.
There was a certain comedian, I won't name who he is. He's very funny. He had to go on after to clean up what Al did, and an audience member slapped him $100 bill and said, "Thank you so much."
Another alt-right audience member?
What?
An alt-right audience member?
Oh, I don't know.
I like that, though. That's positive reinforcement instead of negative. That's good.
And now the only reason I'm talking, and I don't say things like this on them, but we asked him for a signed picture, and he said, and I had some conversation. I don't even remember who I was, but I had some conversation about politics. Told him some stuff he didn't know. I had a good talk with him, and actually, I found him to be pretty reasonable about politics. He was saying stuff that he never would have said when he was in the Senate, and I was also telling him he should run against Gillibrand because Gillibrand's the one who stabbed him in the back. Anyway, and then he does a signed picture and he says, "Dear Noam, thanks for the lean brisket, Al Franken." Which I took as like you fucking could be like, it's a hack. I'm a Jewish deli owner thing,
Isn't lean
Well, but
insult?
I think maybe he just was trying to be funny. It didn't land, and
Yeah,
it doesn't
that's
seem
right.
so
It didn't
bad.
land. It didn't land.
But I don't think there was ill intent on his part.
What does that mean?
It means like, well,
Is that like an expression?
no, it means like I'm the Jew
But
butcher.
Doesn't lean mean dry?
Lean is
To me,
usually
it sounds
good
like
when
an
it comes.
insult.
lean
If
means not
someone
much
said
better.
my mom's brisket was lean, we'd be fighting.
No,
That's-
isn't lean a good thing?
If you
No,
want it
so-
lean,
yeah,
it's-
people want.
a lot of people like
Yeah,
it.
well, I apologize.
Somebody
I'm a
wanted
fatty.
it lean.
That's
The
my
point is that
I think that was a compliment.
no, it was not a comment. He reduced me to kind of a caricature of a Jewish club owner.
I
like
think
Spike
you're
Lee
over-
might
I
have
think
done.
you're overthinking that.
No,
I mean,
no, I'm not. I'm not.
Did you scratch it out and hang it up anyway?
It's hung up. It's hung up.
Oh.
I think he just thought it was funny. A brisket, lean brisket. It's a funny kind of. It's funny. You find it funny. It's just funny the way you talk.
You know
It's
what?
fun.
Maybe you're right. Maybe we should cut out that.
I just think you're overthinking it. I mean, I just don't think that.
I think you might be projecting a little bit.
But I'm glad you did because.
Maybe Dan's right. I hadn't.
But I'm glad that you did because we got some really good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good stuff. that we got about.
Juicy brisket would have been
Ashes
better.
Senator.
yeah, a juicy brisket spelled JEWCY. That would have
And
been
he's Jewish too,
offensive.
so like, what do you care if he's
It's not as if I was a black club owner who said thanks for the fried chicken. That it wouldn't be that. It wouldn't be that overt.
It's just two.
And he
Jews-
is Jewish,
Two
so you
Jews
got- so obviously-
kibitzing, for goodness sakes. This
It's
this,
one Jew to another, maybe. It's like a funny thing.
this podcast is really.
I think that
Thank God we have Carmen here. Let's.
we had had some conversations, and
It's a lean podcast, is what I would say right now.
I don't know.
This is unbelievable. I didn't realize he was Jewish.
No, come on.
There's
stop it. No.
All the Me Too.
I didn't realize either.
All the people accused of
Did
Me
you ever
Too are
see?
Jewish.
Did you ever see his act where he
where he went long and refused to get off
where
stage.
he talks about the town that he's from in the suburb of Minneapolis, which is like the most Jewish area of Minneapolis. And he goes, the Cohen brothers are from there. In fact, a lot of Cohen brothers are from there. You know, because it's a very Jewish area.
Right. I got it.
Have you
No, I
seen or
haven't
listened to
seen
Al
it.
Franken?
I mean, apparently not. But I think that you're completely, like, you've turned that little note into something that he would probably be appalled to hear that you took it that way.
But
is
again,
my guess.
glad you did, because you were able to be more forthcoming.
Every other comedian says, thanks, I love the comedy show, or the spots, or I look forward to my
He's
favorite
trying to
place.
be funny. I mean, it didn't land. It didn't land.
Is that when he stopped getting spots?
No,
Are you saying
I would
that?
still give him spots.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you'll have to deal with.
He is funny.
Okay,
He is funny.
Is that outrageous, though? Why? I mean, I can't imagine somebody would make up that he would say, I'll get off stage when I want to get off stage.
Nobody makes anything up, but people
Well-
change a word here, a word there. They spin. I've been dealing with it my entire career.
Right.
Maybe he
It also-
meant when I feel like it based on what I already said. Like sometimes I say, give me a 5-minute light. Then later someone asks, when do you want the light? And he said, well, light at 10 and I'll get off.
Well,
when
isn't
I'm
that-
done."
Or he could have been totally just kidding.
Isn't
Right.
that why?
Like
Yeah.
the lean brisket.
Yeah.
Isn't that why Seinfeld doesn't work here? Because he thought somebody gave him the light.
We think that's the reason.
Seinfeld
He's
doesn't work?
No, he's been in since then.
Yeah, but he's at other clubs more frequently.
He
No,
goes to
not here
Gotham. He goes to
particularly.
Gotham, and of course, it's near where he lives, I think. But yeah, there was a thing where he thought that somebody gave him the light. He got off, and he said, "I'll never work here again." And we're like, "What? Nobody gave you the light?" So Tom Papa called him and said, "Well, listen, Jerry, we can settle this pretty quick. Where did the light come from?" He says, "Right across from the stage." And Tom's like, "No, that's not where the light. The light's in the doorway. You must have just been something in the light fixture, because sometimes there's spaces in the light. Something you saw that you thought was a light, but it wasn't. Because of course nobody would give Seinfeld the light. That's just absurd.
Also, if that happens, can't you just be like, like, why?
Someone fucked up.
Yeah,
No,
And
no,
we'll,
no, no.
we'll reprimand that individual.
Well, yeah, somebody fucked up, but it would be the height of disrespect to get Jerry Seinfeld the light.
What if Jerry said, "Okay, I'll come back. In fact, I'll come back often, but I want that MC
Fired.
gone." You would not do that.
No, I wouldn't fire that. But he would never do that. I mean, if he did do that, I might have to fire the MC. But anyway, I would do my best. But what I think is that, and he acknowledged that it didn't happen, and I think there's something psychological that even though he knows it didn't happen, it left a bad taste with him in some way that cannot be overcome simply by knowing it wasn't true. Like somebody who, like I know people who grew up kosher and they're not kosher and believe it. They become Christians. They will not eat shrimp because it's just like, it's fine. You can eat bacon. They just can't. It's something in them. I think something's happened with Seinfeld that he got turned off by that.
I had friends that would eat ham and matzah on Passover.
Oh, well, your friends
It makes no sense at all. It's like that. It's just something that doesn't compute, but it's in you and it feels bad.
they couldn't eat regular bread.
During Passover, they
Yeah.
wouldn't eat bread, but they're still eating ham. Like you're already breaking the
No,
rules.
if we want to make this podcast less Jewish, we can turn our attention to
More
Carmen,
Jewish.
Make
or
it
we can.
Spanish.
we can-
Watch out before Carmen. Is there anything else? So you named yourself Kruger Dunn.
Right.
Tell everybody why.
Well, one is because the Dunn and Kruger effect is, I think it's the
There's
most.
more than one reason?
There's more than one reason.
Okay,
yeah.
go ahead.
The second one's quicker. It's because I got sick of anti-Semitic heckling on the road because my real name's very Jewish.
Oh, go tell Dunning-Kruger and then tell us both.
The Dunning-Kruger effect, I think it's the most important effect, psychology in the world. It's the belief that dumb people think they're smart because they're just too stupid to understand why they're dumb. Mm-hmm. And that smart people think they're dumb because all their peers are super smart. Like a lot of doctors think they're dumb because they're not the best doctor in the hospital, but they're still a doctor. They're still very smart. So it kind of evens everyone out. And then what we end up with is people who are charismatic lead society. There's no big, like LeBron James walks in the room, you know he's an athlete. There's nothing like that for how smart you are when you walk in the room.
You can look Jewish.
That's true.
No, but
That's why I wear glasses and have a big nose. Like,
But that-
this was added. People get a surgery to have their nose smaller. I made it more Jewish.
I'm gonna refer to that. And the second reason,
was anti-Semitic heckling.
Now, you actually get anti-Semitic heckling?
Yeah.
Well, I don't get it, and it's hard to say. I don't think you're more Jewish than I am.
but
So
you're more
more known, doing better gigs. Your name's on the marquee.
right.
Yeah.
What kind of?
When I just walk in a bar, like I did Scotland, every bar show before I could even say a word. I'd go, "You're not from here."
well,
That's
that's
not
Semitic.
well, you're not
Did
from.
they ask for lean brisket?
It goes,
I get that. I'm not a Jew, and I get that.
That's not
You're not
anti-Semitic.
from here.
the best thing about anti-Semitism is how everyone tells you it's not happening as soon as you
Well,
try and bring it up.
But you're
This
not from
literally happens
there.
every
You know,
time.
I don't know that that's necessarily anti. I was.
Well,
And then the host comment. I don't want to say my name, but I had a joke about being Jewish toward the end of the set, and he mentioned, he's like, like we couldn't tell with that face and with that name.
Okay,
Like,
but what if
it
you
ha-
said, but what if you said I'm waspy, and he said you couldn't, as if you couldn't tell by that face? You wouldn't be offended. Is it
not
necessary?
waspy. Do I look waspy?
No, but I'm saying
I get
you're only offended because you perceive looking Jewish as a negative thing.
No, 'cause
if
they
he said,
interrupted the
"Boy,
flow."
that
intended, isn't it?
if he said, "Boy, that guy looks so waspy. Look at those chiseled waspy features," you wouldn't be offended.
Listen, you may not be able to tell by the blur on his face. He's a perfectly handsome man.
You know,
perfectly
many
handsome,
women
you
have a
wouldn't
Jewish
do-
fetish. The Jewisher the better.
But to be fair,
It's that
go
they
ahead.
interrupt the show. I don't need additional like it's hard enough already to hold.
I
attention
would
and get
think,
loud.
But
that
is
hold
it-
on. I would think that being in that room. Now, I don't know if his perception is accurate or not, but if you see that the audience is more hostile to you
Right.
than the nice-looking Gentiles,
So beautiful.
enough time,
I
then you
never-
get the idea. Yeah.
Did
I
they
never
s-
felt like I was in danger. It wasn't, you know what I mean? Like in the South, didn't feel like someone was going to stab me outside or anything. I just didn't want to deal with someone. Like I had a bit about tipping, and someone would yell, "'Cause you're Jewish!" Like in the middle of the bed, and then I have to like.
All right, well,
I just don't want to
that's-
deal with it.
But Sam Morril did get that thing thrown at him about it. Like there have been some
Yeah,
comedians.
it's not.
Okay.
huge.
Sam Morril got a Palestine thing. I think. All right,
Carmen.
Carmen Lynch, everybody is with
No,
us.
she wanted to comment on this.
No, I was going to say, did anybody call you a lean brisket?
I wish they had.
No.
Carmen Lynch is with us. She is lean. She is tall. Her Vertically Challenged. That's your album or your special.
Vertically Obese was
Vertically
my
Obese.
album, but
Oh,
no, I'm doing a
Vertically Obese.
special.
But
I-
anyway, she's
yeah.
here to discuss her taping. So tell us about the taping. When, where, how,
June
why?
26th
Yeah.
at the Comedy Cellar Village Underground, 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock. Please come to the 10 o'clock first.
Because it's not sold out. The 8's already.
Well, because
Oh,
the 8
damn.
will sell more. And the 10 it will probably be a little more wild because I will have done one already.
okay.
So, and it's a lot of dark jokes. Nothing from Late Night, nothing from Letterman or Conan or Colbert, any of those. These are other jokes.
Is there a theme that is this
Dark.
It's darkness.
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
dark
theme.
humor.
And also, Carmen is doing a taping in Spanish for a special in Spanish as well. Is
Sí,
that correct?
señor.
That's awesome.
15th of July
In
Barcelona.
Barcelona.
And it's in the bar where my parents met.
Aw.
Wow.
That's
crazy.
sweet. That's
Yeah.
sweet.
Yep.
We had Fabrizio Capano with us just a couple of weeks ago, who is also a bilingual comic, and we discussed that because we seem to come back to this theme often on this show. In addition to Asians not getting into Harvard, one of our themes seems to be bilingual comedy. It's an interest of mine, obviously.
Not one of mine. Go ahead.
Not an interest of Noam's. How will your Spanish special differ from your English special, if at all?
It's about 50% overlap, I'd say. 50%.
Just translated jokes from the English set.
Yeah, but they come out differently. They're worded differently. They might be explained differently, just, depending on. I learned Spanish until I was 8 in Spain. So my English and Spanish are very different. My Spanish sometimes comes out as if I'm an 8-year-old Spanish girl.
Right, okay.
And
you might not have all the slang.
I don't have all the slang, but apparently, of all the times I
Want some
performed,
candy,
they
Carmen?
like it.
Well,
They like
Right.
They like that I don't speak perfectly. I used to try and fix it all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, "No, leave it." I would say the wrong word. I'd say something similar. They understood the joke, but they were like, "No, don't say it. Say your word."
but sometimes the joke really depends on precision of words, and you want them to laugh at the joke, not at your bad Spanish. Not bad, but
Right, but
imperfect Spanish.
It's not.
So,
Yeah, it's a mix. It's not that it's bad. It's that it's maybe more infantile sometimes.
But that can be funny if you're saying it.
but again,
wrong.
but there are some jokes
Yeah.
you might really want them to laugh at the joke and not at your Spanish.
But I think you're separating it too much. It's like 90% the joke and
Okay.
10% the
Okay.
way I said a word.
Now, Carmen, getting back to what Mr. Kruger said, Mr.
Mr.
Dunn.
Dunn.
Mr. Dunn,
Yeah,
Mr.
okay.
Krugman.
Kruger's fine.
Mr. Krugman.
Kruger.
Anyway, do you want special dispensation as a female comic?
No, I don't feel like it was ever. I just want to get on stage. I don't like when they're like, and our next comedian is a lady, or she's lovely. She's a tall glass of water, isn't she? You know,
That's not.
That's just bad hosting.
Yeah.
no, but I mean, why not just treat us like everyone else?
Let's say there were 5
yeah.
male comics,
Okay.
male and non-binary comics, who were booked, and the booker, in good faith, felt that. Let's say it was earlier in your career. Felt that, you know what, these are the 5 best. I think Carmen's great, but if I had to pick my top 5 out of the 50 that are available tonight, I think these 5 dudes are the best 5.
Okay.
And then someone said, no, but you need a woman. They said, okay, put Carmen on. And you found that out. Would you say, you did the right thing putting me on because I'm a woman? Or would you say, fuck that, put the 5 on that you wanted, put me on when you think I'm deserve it?
I feel like it's more energy I don't need to spend. Like, it's out of my control. You're going to do what you want. Are you putting me on or not? You're not? Okay, then I'm going to go over here and go on over here.
Right,
I don't
but
need
you're
to start
avoiding my
fighting.
question.
Yeah.
I'm asking, like, what do you think is, like...
The right answer?
Well, do you think that the booker has an obligation to say, no, we're going to... We know that... I think these top 5, these are the 5 funniest male and non-binary comics, but can't do that, so we're going to pick Carmen on. Would you feel he did the right thing, or would you feel like, no, that's belittling to me?
No, I would take the spot.
Of course you take the spot.
but-
Listen, my kids are going to get their affirmative action, but I'm
Right,
against
but I
it.
mean, first of all, it's one woman out of 5. So you're not even splitting it 50-50. Like you're giving it to one, and I'm like, I'll take it. But what
But
is fair?
Is it fair to the person who didn't get the spot?
Honestly, I don't think about that person that much. It's not even that I'm trying to avoid your
that
question.
isn't even-
In
It's
this
just-
case, it's fair because Carmen's a killer.
No, in
We're
this
taking that out of
scenario,
the
In this
equation.
scenario, you should be booking her. If you have 4 male comics and then like a world-class killer, why wouldn't
you know what it
choose
would be
her?
unfair is like
But
if it was like not just a show but like something important, and I felt like this person deserves it because I don't know, like it would have to be more of a big deal than like a random show.
But this is the issue, that it's like that's rarely the case, that it's only the men that are funny. Like that's, I think, the option that we were given.
But what's not rare is that if you look at the Comedy Cellar lineup, it is not 50-50 men, women. Women are what, 20% of the lineup?
yeah, I'd say about.
Okay,
But
so
what percent of overall submissions is that? Because if 100 women are passed at your comedy club and 3,000 men are, then 20% is still well representative of 100.
Right.
Listen, these are impossible issues.
Too mathy.
There's also so much more now, though. It's like, well, this person brings in tickets because
Yeah.
they
No,
are
but
huge on.
we don't do that.
No, I was talking in
Yeah,
general,
yeah.
not you.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
That's legitimate too.
yeah.
One issue I
Well,
have
but I
booking my
do-
show is a lot of women that are funny are booked. For one, we went through 7 different female comics. Jackie Kashian was the first one I booked because she's one of my favorite comics. She got booked at a much better like theater gig on the road for it, and she sent a suggestion of other female comics. I went through the list of 10; they were all working. So I was like, do I now book the 13th funniest woman that I can get, or a man? And then we ended up being able to get one, luckily. But should we have gotten in trouble if I
You should have
couldn't?
you should have gotten Al Franken.
Yeah. I hear he goes long and loves
Slow.
Christians.
Now there's another element that we've talked about this that the audience might want to hear a different point of view. Even if the 5 men kill the hardest, if you put a laugh meter in the back of the room and you measured the strength of the laugh, those 5 men in your hypothetical are the funniest. Still, there's something to be said for a different point of view, a different way of seeing things that might be interesting to the
What
audience.
if it was 4 men who are ex-police officers and a woman who is an ex-police officer versus the 5th one was a man who was a doctor and a lumberjack in his past life? Which is a more diverse point of view?
I'm not sure I follow.
It's not about point of view. There's different types of performance: high energy, low energy, one-liners, long. There's so many different mixes of comedy. The truth is, I don't think male-female is necessarily the biggest difference between comedians. There are some, although Periel will object to this because she thinks men and women are exactly the same. There are some differences between male and female comics, yeah, but you can have tremendous diversity without ever.
That's true, but do the females in the audience want to see that? You got to consider that as well, because they're half your audience, and they might.
Yes, they do. They do want to see, and the diversity of the. So maybe Carmen was not a good person. Was hypothetical.
Like in your hypothetical, you said it was early in her career. She hadn't gotten her chops yet.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I said. I mean,
I would just feel shame, because I always feel shame. It's just a thing where I'd be like, oh my God, I shouldn't have gotten this. I don't deserve it, But I mean, I've been on a Latino show where they're like, you're from Spain, you shouldn't be on the show.
How'd
and
that
I'm
make
like,
you feel?
It made me feel like kind of like fuck you, like it's not. But he was yelling at me. He goes, "Well, you're not Latina," and I'm like, "I didn't book myself on this. Your guy booked me and asked me, and he's like, well, you don't have dark skin. You look white." And I was like,
Louis C.K.'s from Mexico. There are white people in Latin America as well. I don't know.
Wasn't the Mexican president white?
Huh?
Wasn't Vincent
I don't know.
Fox
But
white?
there's Giselle Bundchen, I think, is German, of German ancestry, and she's from, where's she from, Brazil?
Brazil. That's
So there's people, and Adolf Eichmann, of course, was Argentinian.
Well, but he was German, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I'm saying his kids were German, but they born and raised, I guess. I don't know if they were
No,
born there.
Vincent Fox was
But
darker. But wasn't there a white?
There's a lot of white people in Latin America.
Wasn't there a white Mexican president?
Could be.
Was it confusing with a different one? Now I'm going to get in trouble.
So
well, look,
what do you think of theme shows then?
Well, that's, theme shows are up to that. That's, I mean,
if they told Carmen you couldn't be on that show because you're not Latino, that would be upsetting, right?
But again, like, is it upsetting, or I'm more like, fuck you, I'll go somewhere else. Like, why do I have to make things such a big deal when there's like a million rooms? I'm not going to spend my time yelling.
I guess with a
someone.
Latino show, I guess there's an expectation, even though one can be, as we've said, a white Latino. I guess there's an expectation, perhaps, for the audience expects a certain kind of Latino and Latina. And it's going to talk about being Latino or Latina.
I mean, to be fair, like most I've done Latino festivals, and most of them are very accommodating and very cool. It was just one guy who was like, "What are you doing here?"
Lopez Obrador. He looks pretty white. I'm sure he's not.
Well, he's got gray hair. Maybe when he was younger, he looked darker. But
maybe you're right. Listen, like descending into this way of looking at the world. I know people say that's your privilege, your white wall, but it's not something I care to do. And as a boss who has to make decisions, personnel decisions all the time, it's awful to have to, like, I just want to call it like I see it.
But you do give some weight to what the audience might want to see somebody that's a woman. I mean, that's a factor.
Do you gather feedback at all, like customer satisfaction, or they can ask for a comedian?
Yeah, if from time to time, it's not that often. If we have a show that doesn't have any women on it, which, as Carmen I think will vouch, it's very seldom. So from time to time it happens. I'll get maybe one complaint, and I'll write back, look, you're complaining about the show you saw. The show you think you wanted to see would have been worse because the people we had available just weren't that good. What do you want from me,
Yeah. No, I mean, that's important too. There's also a lot more funny women now than there used to be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's way easier. That's right. That's a very good point. It's way easier now. There's way more funny women.
Way more. COVID I don't know what happened. They just like blossomed, and they're everywhere now.
It wasn't always the case.
No.
It was always like it was great. It was great for the women who were funny because they got more spots on average than the men.
Do you have shows that are all black guys? Or black people on the show?
We have,
and would you?
I would, sure. We have shows that are like three or I think even as much as three and an MC. So 4 out of 6 performers are black. I see that with some regularity.
Yeah,
because black guys dominate stand-up comedy, and it puts the lie to a lot of things because black guys are usually the demographic that everybody is the quickest to assume is being discriminated against. but they get the most spots. I mean, they're like the Jews of the 50s. They're the dominant demographic in stand-up comedy. So nobody seems to discriminate against them.
Is that really true? I mean,
No.
no. I memean, if you look at the comics, if I were to just Google now, obviously they're only 10% of the population, so they're vastly overrepresented.
13 or 14%.
They're
overrepresented. More than that in New York.
They're overrepresented in comedy.
Yeah.
But do they dominate comedy? That is to say, if you looked up the highest paid acts, if that's the metric you want to use, you'll have Gaffigan, you'll have Seinfeld, you'll have Romano, you'll have... No, but I'm saying it's not that they're dominating.
Kevin Hart, Chris Rock,
there's
Dave Chappelle.
Sure, there's a lot, but I don't know that they're... I don't know that they're dominating.
Counted the money. It probably
I mean, I'd have to Google that. Dominating would not be the word I would use.
All right, well,
I would use it. They're overrepresented.
They're overrepresented. They're overrepresented, and I think they are. Yeah, I'm not saying there's only black males.
But dominating,
I mean,
think that
Ali Wong is huge.
No, but
too.
Dominating makes me think like 70% of the top comics, the top drawing comics.
They don't dominate it the way like in the NBA. All right, we're not talking NBA domination.
Well, domination is not the word I would use.
But we're talking maybe Jews in banking dominate.
Well, that Jews don't dominate banking. So I mean, maybe, there's certainly investment banking. There's a lot, but commercial banking is
but
not.
Theme shows aren't. I
Anyhow.
find mixed shows so much better. Like nobody wants to be like. I hate those shows that are like hysterical or hysterical.
I'll tell you one comedy.
Oh,
I'll tell you what. The comedy is a very, very big tent. I mean, if you look at corporate America, any other industry other than I guess show business generally, but comedy in particular, the diversity. I don't think you could find this similar level of diversity anywhere else.
Especially at the Cellar. Although I think that some of the other clubs are. I came around to this position. I mentioned it. I think some of the other clubs are a little bit bro-y. I didn't know that.
Interesting.
Well, can you name club's name?
No.
But what do you mean by?
Do you mean in New York or in the
Even
country?
in New York.
What do you mean by bro-y? Could you just parse that for me?
I don't think it's because they prefer men to women. It's just that they may be more skeptical of female acts in some way. That
I've seen that for sure.
what came,
Well, Zarna is what you're.
what made me come around to it was Zarna, who was just destroying in the Cellar, like destroying.
Yeah.
And I noticed she wasn't getting the number of spots that objectively she absolutely should have been getting all over town, because there's no way she's destroying here. And I'd see some of the other people who were on the lineups at the other clubs. Now, maybe I don't know. Maybe she just wasn't calling into the other clubs or whatever it is. I don't know. Something was wrong with that picture to me.
Not every club goes just by killing.
Also,
Rightly or wrongly, they go by who they think is funny, who they think is hip, cool, who they are friends with, who hangs out there, who they're managing in some cases, where club owners are also managers. I don't know if that still goes on.
and if she's submitting, I mean, if
and if she has any, and if
I've never seen her at another club, but it doesn't mean that she's submitting. Who knows?
Broy may not be the right way to put it. Cliquish could be.
Cliquish is good because so much of it is how social you are, and I'm terrible. I'm the worst network. I'm a huge dork. Found out I'm on the spectrum recently, but I didn't know starting out in comedy. I barely got up anywhere.
You're bisexual?
That's a spectrum. I'm on the spectrum.
Well, the spectrum. Okay.
If we dominate. It's
well,
you all know the spectrum.
Yeah, so when
please. I think if you guys would switch places, it would be.
I don't.
I would switch with. I know you hate your career, but I would switch with you.
I just meant he should sit here. You should sit in the middle.
I would not be ashamed if I were on the spectrum. I don't think I am, but it's.
You're not on the spectrum.
But you
look me in the eyes and tell me you're not on the spectrum.
I don't believe I am. I think I'm on. Well,
he can't.
I didn't say I'm the paragon of mental health.
Can you make eye contact?
Or making eye contact, but I don't know that is an indication of being on the spectrum.
Stop it.
So you were diagnosed with Asperger's or something?
They don't call it that anymore.
What do
they call it?
A Nazi doctor, I guess.
Oh, okay.
I just recently.
Wait, that really is not a term anymore?
Because apparently Dr. Asperger was a Nazi doctor.
Well, what other term is it? Because
it's just autism spectrum disorder, and then you're.
Well, how does
it's very confusing
ASD?
because the only part of it I don't like eye contact. I've learned to I'm doing it. I force it. It can be awkward. Is I have trouble reading emotion on the other person. But if you're over the top, if you're crying, I know I should stop talking to my wife. I'm upsetting her. If you're gonna hit me, I get that, but like sometimes if you're just playing, I'll think maybe you hate me, and I'll never.
It's
know.
like colorblind for emotions.
A little bit, yeah.
Colorblind people can see huge differences in color.
Well, you're certainly high functioning, obviously.
Not supposed to say that anymore either. They told me I'm in the doctor's appointment. I was like, oh, is it high function? He's like, oh, wait, you can't say that anymore. I was like, I thought I can because I am it.
What's wrong with
I don't
high
know.
functioning?
Because it implies
See,
everyone
this is a
else
good clip.
functioning.
lower function.
Yeah.
As opposed to everyone just being ASD, autism spectrum disorder. You're somewhere on there.
So if I'm
No one's
taller
better
than
or-
Dan, that's rude to Dan.
You're on the spectrum of height somewhere.
Well-
You can't. No, that's.
You're
I think that's
high.
different.
But
Don't
who?
say hi. He's low.
Tall function.
But
Yeah.
you say you're not supposed to say that according to who? One doctor?
The doctor. It was a panel of doctors.
I mean, generally
yeah.
speaking.
Were they
I mean,
Nazis?
well, if you think,
Well, no one brought this.
I really hope not.
I mean, sometimes you're not supposed to say something, and you're really not supposed to say it.
Right.
Sometimes one person says you're not supposed to say it, and
No, I
you know,
I would say high functioning.
There's
I'm not
three
going to lose my
There's
career.
3 tweets that say something, and there's an article. People are unhappy because 3 people on Twitter
Telling you,
voiced an
the Wizard
opinion.
of Oz. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. This is what I think Twitter is like.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 5, 6 people. They tell you can no longer say committed suicide, and everybody's like afraid to contradict it because you see this big. You don't know it's just a little dude behind the curtain, and then it actually spreads throughout society. Nobody even knows what it was, why it was, and we all obey. We obey.
Pick a
And
new
then
word,
someone
and
gets
then
canceled for saying something that's not even bad to say.
There's very few bad things to say. Most people, first of all, there's bad intentions. You can choose anodyne vanilla words and eviscerate somebody painfully by never saying a word you're not supposed to say. There's very few words which except for maybe the N word, but even that, which can never be uttered in a way where the intention couldn't mean, oh, that was actually a nice thing to say. Or like people got fired for saying the N word when they were outraged at racism. And they said the word as they're fighting, an argument or making an argument how awful racism is. Oh, you said the word, you're out of here. It's insanity. Can you say insane? Probably not.
Not anymore.
probably not.
It's low functioning.
point.
Take
It's
that
low
out.
functioning mental something. All right, so let's play. Before we go, let's play. You're the owner. Cue the music, Nicole.
Ooh.
What's You're the Owner?
Okay, it's our new game. We should do this every week. So I got an email from a customer.
Okay.
And then we'll go around the table. You can tell me how I should have answered it.
Oh, I love
Oh, that
it.
sounds
I'll
like
tell
fun.
I'll tell you how I would have how I did answer.
That's what sounds like fun.
This is for 7 p.m.
And very on brand.
Okay. No. Okay. My husband and I have been fans of the Comedy Cellar for many years. However, this time featured a long segment on the ineffectiveness of the COVID-19 vaccine. As a medical doctor in training,
Wait, did you talk about the podcast?
my husband and I have been fans for the Comedy Cellar for many years. However, this time featured, no, talking about the club. This time featured a long segment on the ineffectiveness of the COVID-19
okay.
vaccine. As a medical doctor in training, who has spent many years fighting the devastating effects of COVID and working towards vaccination efforts to keep our community safe, I found this distasteful and would like to ask for a refund. Periel.
You actually told me what you wrote, but
I did.
I've kind of forgot, so I can play.
Well, I mean, knowing you,
No. What would you answer?
Oh.
Get over yourself.
you're
So we're
out.
not trying to guess what you
Okay,
said.
but-
Oh, okay.
Say what
Yeah, I
you would
remember.
do.
Now I remember what you said.
What you would do as the owner, keeping in mind you're running a business.
Absolutely not. Like, that is the most absurd thing I've ever
That's
heard
what you
in
would
my
write.
life.
That's what you would write. Absolutely not supposed to. What would you write?
I would say that. It's ridiculous. If I refunded every customer that was offended by something because their life work was like, investigating like Spanish grasshoppers.
Oh, don't offend me.
Now I will add that I didn't write it, but one thing I wanted to say was, the comedian. I know who the comedian was they're complaining about. Was pretty early in the show. They stayed for the rest
Oh,
of the
yeah.
show, and then they didn't ask for a prorated refund. I'd like 1/5. They were like, we want the whole thing refunded.
Yeah, I would say that
But I didn't-
part.
I didn't write
would.
that.
I
No.
would say that too.
And in hopes now, when
If-
you go into a situation, you have to know what it is you're trying to accomplish. What would you be trying to accomplish from a business point of view by taking that tack?
Well, first of all, I think that you'd be setting a boundary and a ground rule. I mean, that person is the entitlement and just even like is so insane. Like, why do you think?
Now, this is a person of color, by the way. So maybe you want to rephrase that. Okay, Carmen, your turn.
Do you know if it's a person of color?
Yes, I do. Go
Okay.
ahead.
First of all, comedy is subjective, and we all have different opinions. We're here to have fun and speak our mind. I'm sorry you feel that way, but I can't refund you. You stayed for the whole show, and yeah, I would say no, but thank you for your business. And also, he's trying to get his medical bills paid because. Come on, get over it. Like a lot of people.
It was a she, but go ahead.
A lot of people.
Of course
disagree.
it was.
A lot of people disagree with the COVID vaccine, but that's just where we are. Like,
And we
who
all know who the
cares?
comedian is who disagrees with the COVID vaccine. Okay, Dan, what would you say?
I would probably say, look, you had a bad time. I will refund your money because I don't want people to have a bad time at my club. But I want you to know that I give comedians a wide berth in terms of what they can say. I don't censor them. That is our policy. You will find yourself in agreement with some of the things comedians might say and disagreement with other things. That I think is the essence of what we do here at the Comedy Cellar.
Okay,
So
I have one question.
Yeah.
How often do you get asked refunds? Because if you don't get asked for a lot of refunds,
Actually, asking for a refund, very, very rarely. Okay, now what does the high-functioning Asperger guy say?
I was hoping to be the only one to say yes, but Dan stole the thunder there. I would say yes, you can have your money back. I'm sorry that you didn't enjoy that particular show. If you do decide to come back, please consider we don't control any of the material of our comedians. They're high-level comedians touring the
they're
world.
not high level. You can't say that.
high functioning.
They're high-functioning comedians. And if you choose to come back, please be warned. In the future, you might be offended again. And in that case, I would not refund.
Now, was this kind of your Chat GPT impression of empathy, or do you actually feel some empathy for this person?
I feel bad for them. I mean,
Why?
I would
You're
just say
capable
that-
of feeling bad. For
Why?
people.
Yeah, I just can't read. I have all the emotions.
Okay.
I just have trouble knowing what someone else is feeling if they don't make it very clear.
I see. That's interesting.
Yeah, like if they're crying or they contort their face or they turn red, I know they're angry, but it has to be very explicit.
Interesting that both women said no.
Well, and it's just unbelievable. It's you sat through the entire show. You could have gotten up
That's
and
sold it
left.
for me.
Yeah, that's like eating 80% of your steak and then saying it was.
It's
overcooked
eating
or
the
whatever.
whole
Yeah.
steak. Forget 80%. You eat the entire steak, and
I
then you
just
So
feel
why would
like
you guys? Why would you
amount of-
still pay back?
because
if
the
they
amount
stay?
of money it's going to cost you to just give, because just the ticket
Anyway, Noam,
price.
who won? Who
But
won?
it's not about the money. Then everybody could say that.
Yeah.
You sit through an entire show. You watch
But
the entire show.
They're not. He's saying they're
That-
not.
that doesn't
on
happen. That
average.
doesn't
like,
happen.
who would love it and then want your money back? And if they do, then they're probably hurting for money. And sure, have your
Nicole, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I feel like I'd double down on the swim at your own risk email that you get when you get tickets to these shows. I feel like you have to kind of I agree with the ladies in the room. I
Nice,
think.
Nicole. I
Yes.
like that.
Stay strong.
You do. You
Now, before I read what I wrote,
I know you gave them their
from,
money
from a
back.
business point of view,
No.
what is the smartest move? What would Karl Rove tell the
Well, I know what
politicians?
you
I
would
would see
say.
if they take free tickets for the next show first,
Oh, that
maybe
sounds
before
good.
giving them money
Yeah,
back. but-
that's
Yeah.
fine too. I think that
Oh,
from-
we're sold out. When we're sold out, it costs the same.
Oh, gotcha.
listen, I don't like the idea of giving the money back because I do
'Cause I'm
think
Jewish?
He feels it sets a precedent.
Yeah, because
does.
thank you. Because I feel like it sets a really dangerous precedent. I feel like you go really out of your way to make sure it is swimming.
Well,
your
look,
own risk.
if-
And wait, and one other thing, and I also think if the person had gotten up and left after that comic, that would have been a different story.
Well, my feeling is that it doesn't happen often. If it starts to happen often, Noam can certainly change his policy.
Yeah.
But anyway, Noam, who won the contest? Who
Well,
came
Well,
close?
I'll read what I wrote. You cocksucking line.
You high functioning little bit.
Can I say the C word? No. Okay, that's what I said. Hi, I'm happy to give you a refund as I would any unhappy customer. So I guess the men already won. Nobody is more pro-vax than me. Now, let me just stop there. I know it's pro-vax than I, but I find it sounds pedantic and arrogant to say than I.
Wait, are you sure it's than I?
Yeah.
I thought it was
been
than me.
yelled at for
Isn't
saying anti.
It's the
isn't
predicate.
Yeah.
It's in the predicate.
isn't it like the an object pronoun? Then
You
No,
don't say
then I am. No one is more pro-vax than I am. So it would
Than
be.
I.
yes, but I get that.
I think it's than I. But anyway.
Whatever.
But I okay. What happened to it? Well, I'm happy to give you a refund as I would any unhappy customer. But I do want to say, as I would any other customer. Oh, I skipped something. I got it wrong, actually. Start again. Beep. Take 2. Hi, I'm happy to give you a refund as I would any unhappy customer. But I do want to say, it's just his opinion, you know? Nobody is more pro-vax than me, or pro-Israel for that matter. But when comics make jokes that are skeptical of the things that I hold dear, I recognize that's America. And sometimes the jokes show how colossally uninformed the comics are. Again, believe me, no business is more happy to refund any unhappy customer for any reason. One time I refunded a customer because she was offended by Ryan Hamilton's making fun of hot air balloons. Ballooning was very serious to her. Please note, I believe I was the first business in New York to require all its customers and employees to be vaccinated. I did it before I knew I did it before I knew it was even legal. I despise Tucker Carlson and the rest of the vaccine deniers. I couldn't be more on your side of this issue. But on the issue of letting people say things that I disagree with or that even upset me in a comedy club, not so much. I hope the other comics you saw were good. Jennifer will arrange a refund on Tuesday. No, that's what I wrote.
So none of us won because none of us guessed political diatribe.
Yeah. So
Well, I think that was much better.
Well, the
than
winner-
my
I know. I
idea.
like that answer.
Yeah, that was much better
That
than
was
my
perfect.
idea.
So now what's interesting is what happened here, and it happens
Every time.
every time. I told you. Now, usually I always take it from customers because I know there's no percentage in shooting back. Unhappy, they become your customer for life. They appreciate it. There's like it's so smart just to give them. From time to time, I feel like to either they got so under my skin or they were disrespectful or to give the refund is acknowledging something that I really don't want to acknowledge. I push back on the customer as I did here, and I pushed back harder in the past. But this was still, they always back down. They always.
Well, they want it to be heard.
Really?
I think when people want to be heard, and she felt heard, and that was enough.
So
did
she
she
wrote
read back
back
the
to her credit. Now, there's always to their credit that they backed down. It means that they were actually coming. I'm always impressed by that because actually they were better people and more thoughtful people than you would have thought from the initial email. And this happened with Louis too. When I would answer with these horrible emails again, he was like, "Oh, I hadn't thought of that." Thank you for your response. I understand it's his opinion, and that everyone is entitled to their own. I'm rarely offended by anything comics say. Just at this time, it hit too close to home. We did enjoy the rest of the evening, and will continue to support the comedy zone.
And we
Nice.
don't want a refund anymore, or did she take the refund?
She's. I told her I was going to give her the refund. They didn't have a good.
I mean, if
No,
she
I-
actually had the amount of integrity that you're crediting,
No, but they
her
didn't have a
with-
good time. I'm happy to give them
But
the
they did.
refund.
She
She
did,
just
though.
said she had a
said
good
she did.
time.
Okay, you're right. You're right.
Is there ever?
Twice in one show. Noam.
You didn't let me finish.
That kind of makes sense because like if there's turbulence on a plane flight, you don't get the money back, even though 10% of it wasn't enjoyable. If overall it was a good time.
I think I know what you're trying to say. I don't know if that was the best
Well,
analogy, but
Is there ever anyone where you're like, no, I'm sorry?
if you eat a steak and there's a moldy spot in 5% of it and you cut around it, they don't charge you for 95% of the steak, right?
Right.
They refund
You
the
get a
whole-
different steak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, really, finish what you were going
So
to say.
somebody asked, is there ever? I think Carmen, is there ever a time where you just say no refund? Sorry.
No refund for you. No.
Like what would have to happen?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Almost never.
Well, nobody ever asks for the refund. I usually offer the refund. My attitude has been for a long time now that I've said this on the show, most products you buy, if you don't like it, you can return it. And you can't really return a show, but analytically, I don't mind considering it the same thing. I gave them the show. They didn't like it. So I'm going to give them their money back. Now she's right. If it gets crazy, if people hear this thing and it gets out of control, I might have to revisit that policy. Right now, I don't think most people are going to, I don't think they're going to turn that against me. However, LL Bean used to have the same policy. They
Right,
used to
you return it.
lifetime
Yep.
money back guarantee. And then when the internet really became ubiquitous, word got out to other communities besides the local Maine, whatever you call those people. But they're like the New England, like very upright, They're not like Hasids. And
They're called wasps. Is the word you're looking
wasps,
for?
whatever it is. So what worked, what LL Bean could do in that community, it could not do with the nation at large because so many people started taking advantage of it that they had to rescind that policy. And that's sad. And maybe I'd have to rescind it. If you go to
Costco does
Maine,
it too.
I told you're in Maine, there's parking lots there that just have the price list by the hour and a box with a slit in it, and it's the honor system. You pay however long you park. They don't have an attendant.
I think very few people would have the temerity to enjoy a show and then say, I didn't enjoy it, give me my money back. I'm sure there are people that would do that. I agree with you that even if I just agree that most people would not have that kind of temerity.
Look, and I'll go beyond that. Very often they'll complain about the staff or something did to them. This has really gone down now. And everyone who works for me would take their staff side. It's not true, because blah, 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 blah. Every time that I've done a deep dive looking into what the customer complained about, the customer was right. Every single time. Not once did I catch a customer making up details. I remember saying to one of someone, it's like, what is this customer, a novelist? Who could make up this level of detail in a complaint on a Google review? Like who? Like this is genius, And then he said this, and I said this. Yes, they might spin it, they might exaggerate to some degree. Everybody on every side of every story spins it because they don't want to take any chances with convincing the other people. But there have been times actually. Now a lot of the employees wear security cameras.
Body cams.
Body cams. There have been times when the complaint understated it. When I saw what actually the employee did, it was worse than what the customer described. So I'm totally on the customer's side now. And since I've taken this really hard attitude with the staff about this, we have cut our complaints down by like 85%.
Wow.
Because the staff is petrified now of looking at a customer the wrong way.
That's what you want. Your
because they
workers to be terrified all day.
That's because you're filtering.
And I didn't have to fire anybody. Nobody's ever been fired about this.
They're just living in fear.
Well, you know what? They're paid to be polite to.
They shouldn't be harassing people.
This is always, and this is the double standard that this is human. Whenever you sit at a restaurant, a waitress is a little bit like, "Fuck this! Why I can't." But then all of a sudden, when you know the waitress, I can't believe the boss yelled at you.
Yeah, no. That's fine. You're right about that. But this is irking me a little bit because this customer.
Well, she's not telling you that. Periel does her own shows, and one time she had a customer
No,
she had a customer who couldn't figure out the Zoom link. And she apparently sent the right link, but the customer had technical difficulty, whatever it is, the customer asked for the money back. And Periel didn't want to give the customer her money back. I said, Periel, give them their fucking money back. They didn't even watch the show. They tried. She's like, it's their fault. I gave them a perfectly good Zoom link. If they couldn't figure out, you finally did because I...
No, I didn't give them their money back. It was a perfect...
You showed them.
300
never watched
people could figure out how to use the Zoom link.
If they were a man, yeah, they're probably wrong.
It was a man. I mean, maybe...
That was terrible, Periel.
Well, I offer them free tickets to the next show.
And
maybe you're
give
right.
them their fucking money back. They didn't even watch a show.
Okay, but in this case, this person admitted to enjoying the rest of the show. So wouldn't they have more integrity to write you back to that email and be like, you know what?
You're right.
You're right. That did bother me. I didn't like it, but I'm an adult and I'm going to be okay.
But I think no one's looking at it in utilitarian. Like, it's not about whether it's right or wrong, which is going to make his business more money over time. And that is avoiding 100 bad Yelp reviews. One angry person can get 30 of their friends to go leave a 1-star review on Yelp. It's not that hard.
He's right about that, but that's only partial. I believe there is such a thing as corporate culture. Corporate culture is a huge discerning influence in businesses that do well and businesses that businesses that don't. The staff knows that I take our proper behavior so seriously that I refund customers almost without question. I put my money where my mouth is. And at the point where I start slicing and dicing and rationalizing, in my opinion, well, we're going to refund this one, not refund that one, it looks like I'm worried about the money. And I don't want that to filter down to the staff. I want the staff to see that from the top, all we care about, the only thing, there are no competing concerns. All we care about is that people are happy. And we don't hold it against them, why they weren't happy. We're not saying it's our fault. We just want people to be happy. You weren't happy. This is my place with my name on it. You weren't happy. I don't need your money. That's the way it is. I don't want money from anybody who feels that I'm keeping it against their will. They don't need to be right. I don't want it. I can afford it. I don't want it. That's how I feel about it.
Okay, well, I think that's a good place to wrap things up, if that's okay.
Can I just say I'm a big fan of Nicole before we go?
Well, you can
did an
certainly say that.
excellent job.
Just very quickly, did you come to New York to do this show, or you?
I did, yeah.
Oh wow, that's a.
You flew from L.A. here?
Yeah. I mean, I have family here, and my dad lives in Connecticut, so it's nice to see
Was your
them.
dad happy to see you?
Yeah.
Could you tell?
I did tell him I was going on Alan Dershowitz's podcast, though.
Oh, you did?
He had not heard of the Comedy Cellar.
Well, we thank Kruger Dunn. We will
Thank
find
you
out
for
his
having
real
me.
name after the show. It's probably like Garfinkel or something, because he said it was very Jewish. So I'm guessing Horowitz or Garfinkel. I could be wrong.
I'm saying Iceberg or Goldberg or something.
Iceberg.
We thank Carmen Lynch. Carmen, just briefly again, tell us about your, when they can, where
Thank you,
your
Dan.
taping is happening.
June 26th, Comedy Cellar Village Underground, 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock. Get your tickets now at Carmen Comedian. It's the link in my bio. Thank you.
But Cheat, before you come to the 10 o'clock show,
Yes.
if you have a choice.
Did you ever have the temptation to say Carmen, comedian?
That's how I picked it. I was
wow,
like
that's-
Carmen. Everybody says that, but I thought it too. It was like Karma Chameleon, Carmen Comedian.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's great. We
Even
thank,
when I said Carmen,
no, then I got it, but I didn't get it when she said
Oh,
it.
yeah,
really.
yeah.
Periel Aschenbrand, our producer, bringing her unique style to the show, as she always does. And, of course, Nicole Lyons making it all happen behind the scenes. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.